The land of Tarnary suffers from the Malrokian curse. Brought on by the gods, this curse punishes the world with earthquakes and hurricanes for spilled blood. To minimize the bloodshed in the world, man now settles their disputes by gladiatorial combat in the arena. Heroes from around Tarnaries gather in the capital to represent the wealthiest and most powerful kings and lords. Unbeknownst to the heroes, a dark secret lies behind the curse that only the bravest dare to investigate. This is Arena, the contest. Arena the Contest is a 2-to-8 player PvP battleground and a 1-to-4 player cooperative RPG dungeon crawler published by Jogori Games. It's a Kickstarter exclusive, so you won't be seeing it on the shelves. However, Jogori Games is dedicated to continuing the series, so when they make a new game, you'll be able to pick this up too. Now, the base game holds 235 grams of plastic, which is pretty average. But with all the expansions, you're getting a whopping almost 2.5 kilograms of plastic. That's pretty impressive. The game was designed to be a PvP battleground where players would draft their heroes and build the battlefield, and compete in tournaments of up to 16 players. But it also had an RPG element added onto it and a campaign mode. People believe that the RPG part was just an add-on and not really well thought out. However, when people actually received it and played the campaign mode, they found it was really well designed and written. The PvP gameplay is fantastic and definitely worth playing, but most people want it now for the PvE aspect, and that's the part we'll be focusing on today. The rules of the game are relatively simple. If you're familiar with the Gloomhaven franchise or the D&D Board Game franchise, you already know about 60% of the rules for Arena. The game also comes with this quick start rules pamphlet that teaches you pretty well 90% of the rules in a 10-minute read. Combine it with the reference cards and you're ready to start your first quest. The rulebook is actually just a reference guide, really. You don't need to read it all, and it's basically if you have a question about a specific mechanic, you can refer to it. You could play the cooperative PvE aspect of this game in one of two ways. You could play one-off missions using just the quest guide, or you can combine this with the campaign tome to go through a series of quests for an epic story. The quest guide has all the quests available in the core box to tell you how to set up the environment, what kind of enemies you'll be facing, and any special rules that go along with it. Some of these rules don't apply if you're just playing a one-off mission, and they're used for the campaign mode. Which makes sense when you're playing the campaign mode because your guys are progressively getting stronger, so you need a few rules to offset that. So for the rest of the review, I'll be using the first quest, Lava Citadel, as an example, just so I don't spoil anything. And again, you can pick any quest out of this book and play it just as a one-off, but I highly suggest starting a campaign and playing through that way, at least once. So this campaign tome contains all the lore you're going to need to know about the land of Tarnaries, and all the rules to start your first campaign. And it's very simple to use. You just read along until you see some bold red text telling you to stop and do whatever it says. It could be Start Quest 1, Lava Citadel, or Read Card 14. And now for the big decision. You and your party have to pick 4 heroes you're going to bring along in the adventure. There's 12 unique heroes to choose from the base game, and an additional 16 heroes from the expansions, so a total of 28. Heroes are divided into 7 different classes: the Brute, Tactician, Bruiser, Tank, Healer, Shooter, and Controller. Each class shares a passive ability. For example, all the healers share this ability that allows you to heal someone close by when you land an attack. The one rule about choosing your class in either of the game modes you choose is you can't pick 2 from the same class. So no, you can't do a 4 healer never die combo. But with the amount of classes to choose from, there's nearly endless combinations. Once players have chosen, they grab their ability cards, their hero pads, a special token, and they get to pick 2 heroic actions to bring. And now you're ready to go. Once you have the board set up for the quest you're taking on, enemies set up, and cards set up around the board, place all the enemy and hero tokens on their starting health tile bordering the board. Then place the figures on the stairs tile in any order you wish, and you're ready to start your first turn. Players can choose who goes next in any order they wish. There is no initiative order or anything like that, but you may want to plan ahead so your party can maximize their ability usage. During your turn, you do a move action and a prime action. Move actions are used to move, obviously, and you do that by moving the number of squares equal to your speed stat. But you can also do a couple other things, such as sidestep, which sacrifices your speed to move 1 square, typically to avoid reaction attacks. Provide first aid, which resurrects a fallen ally by sacrificing some of your HP. Or pick up and trade items. Prime actions are used to either take another move action, perform one of your party's heroic actions, make a basic attack, make a primary attack using one of your silver border cards, or make a special attack using one of your gold border cards, then flipping that card over for the rest of the mission. You also need to flip the special token over, which will be flipped back to ready after the next player's turn ends. When you make a basic attack, you just use the basic attack stat to see if you're in range. A bow means you have a range of 8 spaces, and the sword means you have to be adjacent. You roll the 20-sided die and match it to the enemy's defense. If it equals or succeeds the defense, you deal a number of damage equal to the stat. These basic attacks will rarely be used, seeing that your abilities are a lot stronger and accurate, but some special rules restrict you from using those abilities. When you make a special or primary action, you follow the card's instructions like a list. For example, here's the Hunter's Twin Shot ability. The range is 8 spaces and you can target up to 2 enemies, so if you meet that criteria, you move on to the next. And you just move down the list until everything's completed on the card. And remember to always check your passive. For example, shooters have the accuracy passive, so when they hit a target from at least 5 squares away, the target takes an additional 4 damage. And sometimes a prime action is required to pull a lever or destroy an object during a quest, so plan ahead for that too. If an enemy is defeated, take their figure off the board and replace it with their figure's health token. This becomes a flask, which players can use a movement point to pick up. Flasks are like one-time use abilities, and they're pretty powerful. After all of the heroes take a turn, all the flask tokens come off the board, and it's the villain's time to activate. But keep the special rules of the mission in mind because these usually activate around this time. You start the villain phase by drawing an evil power card and following its instructions. They'll usually be something like villains are hastened and empowered. Then they give you a command to what to do. So in this case, it's attack the hero with the lowest HP within 6 squares of you. Every villain on the board does this. After the card's resolved and all the villains have moved, check and see if there's a boss out. If there is, draw a boss spell. These are typically a more powerful villain card, but only move and attack with the boss. There's also main bosses, which are mainly dragons, that have their own ability cards and mats, and usually have a very cool mechanic attached to them. Throughout the quests, you can also complete some side objectives such as rescue all the prisoners or destroy an orb. These are mainly for the campaign mode, awarding you extra XP after the campaign. Rounds continue like this until the quest requirements are met. After that, you can either pick a new quest to play, or if you're playing campaign, you just read whatever it tells you to. Now, playing with all the pieces and moving around the board, fighting and completing your quest is obviously the core part of the game, and it's a lot of fun. But the most fun I had in this game was following along with the story and making the decisions. Now, between the cards and the campaign book, you're going to have a different story every time you play. One time you might be fighting the red powerful fire dragon, or one little decision will actually move you towards a really strong bone undead dragon. So what I'm saying is the paths change drastically every time you play a campaign. And a lot of games have this, but the way Arena does it, it's something special. There are multiple puzzles that you can solve too, and not all of them are necessary. But if you complete them, you're going to have a better outcome probably. Now I'll give you an example of a situation I had, and I'll be pretty vague so I don't spoil anything. Our group was tasked to go out and rescue someone. We had a plan for escape, and we also had a backup plan just in case that didn't work. The plans were full of details, so we were told to study it, but we only absorbed like 25% of what they said. So we were busy with the quest, we fought the boss and defeated him, and we rescued the person we were supposed to. Well, we continued going on with our plan of the escape route, and a ton of decisions came up. We remembered what we studied, and we tried to follow it the best we could. But things started to quickly go downhill, and the plan started to crumble. We went to our backup plan, but it didn't turn out the way we wanted to either. So every decision we had someone yelling, "No, we have to go left," or "We have to go down that path." And every time we made a mistake, the person we rescued would lose some health, and we'd start running out of time. And this was all tracked on the sideboard using these tokens. So we were watching our time and our rescuee's health drop down to 0. It was full of anxiety, but it was exciting and really fun. And every decision we made had a huge impact on what was going on. And for those that are curious, we made it by the skin of our teeth. And that mechanic was only one of the many that we encountered in this campaign. You can tell that the designers are true RPG players because it shows through the mechanics. Between missions during the campaign, Players can buy items, level up, or gain new abilities using their XP. The new abilities are obtained from different heroes, so you really like the Minotaur's Charge ability, but you're playing the Orc? You can buy it. Now your Orc can charge into battle. The leveling up system is lacking, however. So when you level up, you can either gain some HP or power, but buying the abilities is actually more impactful than that. But the abilities are so balanced that it's not a crazy impact on your game. Comparing to other games like Gloomhaven, it's pretty simplistic. But Dragori Games is addressing this issue in the next expansion, Tarnari's Adventures, so I'm looking forward to see that. So overall, this game seems pretty simple, and in turn, you would think it would get boring pretty fast. At least that's what I thought when I first bought it. But with all the smaller rules with positioning, such as mobbing another enemy, or focusing an attack, mixed with the passive abilities of all the classes, it makes this game a real thinker. It's always a puzzle to maximize your damage, and to minimize the damage you're going to receive. It's definitely easy to learn, but hard to master. The game also features a ton of variety in its heroes and enemies, and the bosses are on a totally different level with all the mechanics and complexity. Also, the games and some of the expansions come with these amazing custom storing trays for all your bits and pieces. Even the lid that goes on the trays has some gorgeous art on it. It's definitely very high quality. Something I didn't like though is the quality of the miniatures, such as the famous Little Hand Cleric. I mean, just look at it. Another thing I don't like is some of the rules and the puzzles were misprinted. Some of the puzzles didn't make any sense and were unsolvable with what they gave you. And the rules included like rangers having one range kind of thing. It was either a typo or it was just overlooked. Either way, our group was really annoyed by it because we wasted 30 minutes on a puzzle when the answer that we had was correct, but it wasn't working. However, Dragori Games came out with an FAQ to fix all these little mistakes, but it was too late. We already wasted our 30 minutes. So I kind of wish I knew that sooner. And of course, this game's a Kickstarter exclusive, so that's another negative. You're not going to find it on the shelves, and you're going to have to pledge an amount and wait time to get it. At the time of this video, I believe you can make a late pledge to get Tarnari's and this game. So a majority of these issues are being addressed with their expansion that they're coming out with, and I look forward to seeing that. So for the final verdict, this is my favorite dungeon crawler game out there. The story is one of the best I've ever read, and the mechanics of the game are just on a whole nother level. You can tell if you've played the D&D series of board games that this is heavily inspired by that. It's like a D&D board game, but on steroids. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.